Once again, Christian greetings to all our valued listeners and viewers throughout the whole world, and more particularly to all Shepherd's Rod believers, and most especially to our beloved brothers and sisters in the United States of America. Greetings to all our brethren in Colorado, in PG Island, Mexico, Spain, Africa, to the United Kingdom, and to our brethren in Australia, and to the rest of the 144,000 living saints scattered abroad. Greetings, and may the good Lord bless you, brothers and sisters. This is our episode number 11 on the subject, the day of slaughter, and hoping that we could be able to make a complete summarization of the subject. And I would like to begin in 3 Symbolic Code, number 1, page 8, saying, "Therefore, as there are two separations, there is a double fulfillment of Ezekiel's slaughter, one in the church before the close of provision, and the other in the worldly churches after the close of provision, when everyone has made his decision. The unfaithful spiritual guardians, or the false watchmen of the people, are the first to fall in the worldly churches, just as the ancient men who are in the Seventh-day Adventist Church are the first to fall." Testimonies for the Church, Volume 5, page 211. This is the only explanation that will harmonize every statement on this subject found in the Spirit of Prophecy and in the Bible. And here's another statement. 1 Symbolic Code, number 15, page 9. 1 Symbolic Code, number 15, page 9. As both citations in the above must be correct, it proves that the slaughter of Ezekiel 9 takes place before the commencement of the loud cry. This same truth can be proved by the Bible from several different angles. So there's another statement, and still in the old Symbolic Code. 2 Symbolic Code, number 7 and 8, page 11. Who are the slain of the Lord? Question. Who are the slain of the Lord in the time of persecution? Are they of the heathen, of fallen Protestantism, or are they of professed Sabbath keepers? Those who are slain before the commencement of the loud cry, in fulfillment of Isaiah 66, verse 16, are professed Sabbath keepers who fail in the time of the closing work for the church to receive the seal of God. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 3, page 266. See the September Code of 1935, page 7. However, those who are slain in fulfillment of Revelation 9, verse 18, see our tract Final Warning, the subject of the 7 trumpets, pages 65 to 92. In the time of the loud cry, are those who come in close contact with the Church of God, and who could be either heathen or professed Christians of several characters, namely, such as those who openly war against the church, and those who pretend to believe in her teachings, but who, as those who were destroyed in the Exodus movement, are, by their sins, working against the church to weaken her lines of defense, thus endeavoring to cause her to fall helpless before her enemies. Now, at this time, our main concern is the period of time. The loud cry, the slaughtering rather, before the loud cry, and the slaughtering during the loud cry proclamation. So let us make a dividing line here. So the slaughtering here and the slaughtering. This is the slaughtering before the loud cry, and the slaughtering in the time of the loud cry. But the other statement says the slaughtering before the close of provision and the slaughtering after the close of provision. So our whole attention must be focused to the period of time. The slaughtering before the loud cry, the slaughtering in the time of the loud cry, or the slaughtering before the close of provision, and the slaughtering after the close of provision. And of course, the most important part is the slaughtering before the close of provision. And we might ask the question, who are they to be slaughtered before the close of provision, and who are they that will be slaughtered after the close of provision? The statement in 3 Symbolic Code 1, page 8 is very plain. The people that will fall on the slaughtering before the close of provision, they are the spiritual guardians of the people, and it's called the church. And those will be slain after the close of provision. They are the spiritual guardian of the worldly churches. Now, who are they, the worldly churches? Brothers and sisters. Now, let us read another statement in the Shepherd's Rod. Let us read 1 TG number 3. 1 TG number 3 on page 12. It says, the purification of the church. So it says, the purification of the church. Then the quotation is Ezekiel 9, verse 1, verse 4, and verse 9. And this is the statement given by the Shepherd's Rod. The angels have charge of the city, Jerusalem, not of the world, and not of Babylon. Even an altogether uninformed Christian knows that the terms Jerusalem, Judah, and Israel mean the church, never even as much as imply the world. They have always meant the church and always will mean the church, for that is what they are. Now, the question is that the statement in 3 Symbolic Code number 1, page 8, very plain. The slaughter of Ezekiel 9 has a double fulfillment. And it says, first, in the church before the close of provision, and then the other in the worldly churches after the close of provision. But our understanding in 3 Symbolic Code 1, page 8, should not contradict to the statement in 1 TG 3, page 12. Or in other words, the term Jerusalem, Judah, and Israel can only be applied to the Sabbath keepers. The church mentioned must be the Sabbath keepers recognized by God as the church. And those who will be slaughtered after the close of provision must be to all Sabbath keepers, brothers and sisters, by which the Shepherd's Rod categorized it as the worldly churches, according to 3 Symbolic Code, number 1, page 8. Because here in another statement in the Old Symbolic Code, let's read the statement. 1 Symbolic Code, number 16, page 3, asking the question, if Jeremiah 25, verse 31 takes place at the second coming of Christ, how can he plead with all flesh? This question is answered by Isaiah 66, verse 16. For there too is stated that he will plead with all flesh. And the September number of the code, page 7, it says, proves that the Lord begins to plead with all flesh in the proclamation of the sealing message and the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9 in the church, and will end at the close of provision, when the third angel's message shall have been proclaimed in all the world, for a witness unto all nations. Therefore, by the manifestations of God's judgments, and by the preaching of the message in the time of the loud cry in all the world, for a witness unto all nations, he pleads with all flesh. I remember that statement saying, by the manifestations of God's judgments. If you still remember the statement in 2 Azar, page 94, saying, as there is no time left for calling out a new movement, then a message of amazing light and stern rebuke through the word of God, with manifestations of divine judgments, is the only remedy that can bring true conversion and reformation. But if you will read 2SR 185, saying, at the beginning of the judgments of God, of course, that is the time when God's judgment began to manifest. At the beginning of the judgments of God, they saw their mistake and rushed for the ark of safety. But it was beyond their reach, for they knew nothing of the message. And by the time they acquired it, filled their lamps with oil, there had been a delay. The angel had passed through the city, through Jerusalem, the church, the ceiling was finished, and provision for the church had closed. The door was shut. Thus they were left out. Then they came with these words, Lord, Lord, open unto us. But he answered and said, verily I say unto you, I know you not. Appoint his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. What a disappointment that will be. 2SR 185 and 186. With such a statement, I do fully believe that the manifestations of God's judgment is no longer beneficial. I would like to address these words to all of us, Shepherd's Rod believers. At the time when God's judgment began to manifest, and that is the time that we accept the message, that is too late. The manifestations of God's judgments, I do fully believe that is intended to other people rather than to us, Shepherd's Rod believers. I remember the reading in 2 Symbolic Code number 12, page 8. It says, sorrow to one, joy to another. 2 Symbolic Code number 12, page 8. Please give us light on the following testimony, or that the people might know the time of their visitation. The time of God's destructive judgments is the time of mercy for those who have had no opportunity to learn what is truth. Tenderly will the Lord look upon them. His heart of mercy is touched. His hand is still stretched out to save, while the door is closed to those who would not enter. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 9, page 97. The above testimony shows that God is to manifest His destructive judgments before the close of provision. The same with the statement, right, in the old Symbolic Code, 3 Symbolic Code 1 to 8. The slaughtering before the close of provision. Slaughtering is God's destructive judgments. It says here, 2 Symbolic Code number 12, page 8, the above testimony shows that God is to manifest His destructive judgments before the close of provision. For at that time He will be merciful to those who have had no opportunity to learn what is truth. His hand still stretched out to save. Moreover, it also proves that at the same time, the doors, provision had closed to those who would not enter. Brethren, apology if it is not appropriate, but I need to be honest of what I believe. I preach what I believe, and I believe what I preach. The statement in 13 Symbolic Code, 1 and 2, page 19, I would like to quote that statement, the most enlightened people will suffer first. I would like to quote that statement, that the most enlightened people will suffer first. And according to what I believe, the most enlightened people must be the Shepherd's Rod believers, the obedient. Of all the people in the world, I do fully believe that we are the most highly privileged to know the plan of salvation, brothers and sisters. And there is nothing to fear with God's destructive judgments if we are honest and faithful. Hear the statement. Please project that statement that God will only spare the righteous. I think there's a statement in tract number 4 saying that anciently, when God sent judgments, some of the righteous also suffered such judgments. Here in tract number 4, page 40, it says, His mercy. But I would like to read a statement It says, the fact that the names of the children in Isaiah's vision are Lo Rohama, no mercy, and Lo Amai, not my people, when representing the Old Testament period, signifies, as previously seen, that God could no longer extend mercy to the members of His church. So when He punished them by the heathen, the innocent suffered alike with the guilty. But the names Ruhama, mercy, and Amai, my people, show that now, in the latter day period, He will have mercy upon them by destroying the wicked only, sparing all the righteous. Tract number 4, page 40. So that is the promise. And that is why the Shepherd's Rod admonishes us to be honest with our profession. Now, I would like to read, brethren, 1 TG 24, page 12. 1 TG 24, page 12. The title of God's people, you know, is Judah. So that is the title of God's people, Judah. They are counseled to behold the messenger of God, who at the fulfillment of this prophecy brings to them good tidings, tidings of peace. The message of the kingdom of peace. Isaiah 11, verse 6 to 9. The Lord counsels them to be honest with Him, honest in their profession of faith. They are, moreover, assured that at the fulfillment of this prophecy, the destroying angels are to remove the wicked from the midst of the righteous. Thus will the wicked be raptured away and be no more. 1 TG 24, page 12. First of all, brethren, that statement by B.T. Hodeb saying that God cannot save the world with a lost church. Can you project that statement? That God cannot save the world by a lost church. Timely greetings. 1 TG 29:14. Is that the only message? Let's read the statement. 1 TG 29, page 14. After God's church passes through the purifying process, then it shall be clearly seen by all that a lost church cannot save a lost world. During the second Pentecost, every church member will be filled with the Spirit. And as a result, thousands will without hesitancy embrace the truth for this time. 1 TG 29, page 14. And will you agree, brothers and sisters, that God cannot save a lost church with a lost association? I think every one of us accept the absolute reality that all of us acknowledge and agreed that the Seventh-day Adventist Church is a lost church. But can God save a lost church with a lost association? Can our Almighty God rescue His people in the Seventh-day Adventist Church? While in reality, the Davidian are divided, bickering, quarreling each other. We need to study closely the plan of salvation, brethren. Now, who are they? The church mentioned, which is the title given by God, is Judah. In our days, in the days in which we are living in, brethren, it is really beneficial to follow this injunction given in Answerer number 1, page 10, saying, so will you not start now to measure yourself no longer but by what you think you are or will be, but by what the Lord says you are and must be. Answerer number 1, page 10. Or in other words, let us start now to measure ourselves, we as the Davidians, no longer by what we think we are or will be, but by what the Lord says we are and must be. Answerer number 1, page 10. Or the very message must be, dear friends, let us not deceive our own selves. Testimonies for the Church, volume 1, page 190. We cannot deceive God. God knoweth our true condition, brothers and sisters. Even if you will see in the internet, in the social media, look at the video. Both of them, they believed that they were full-fledged Shepherd's Rod believers, but they were fighting against each other. Brothers and sisters, no one sees eye to eye. Now, this statement in 1 TG number 29, I would like to read the statement. 1 TG 29, page 9. It says, the answer to all these questions is simply this. There must be an awakening to spiritual poverty and earnestness in searching truth. That is the greatest miracle that will ever happen with such someone completely awakened to his spiritual poverty. Spiritual poverty, brethren, can simply be understood that without the present truth in our midst, we are in a deep spiritual poverty because the only riches that we could have is the present truth. And to pretend that the present truth is in our midst is only deceiving our own selves, and we are working against our own eternal welfare. So, it is better for all of us to acknowledge our failures than to evade the truth. According to 2 TG number 17, page 8. It is better for all of us to acknowledge our failures than to evade the truth, for it is the truth that shall make us free. Now let us read again 1 TG 29, page 9. The answer to all these questions is simply this. There must be an awakening to spiritual poverty and earnestness in searching truth. There must be a stop to sin. There must be a sinless place and people, an ark of safety, so to speak, if we are ever to be saved from the plagues. Acans too must be put away before Israel can triumph and take the land. That is very plain. Acans too must be put away before Israel can triumph and take the land. God, in His wisdom, knows that it is better to destroy comparatively few enemies of truth than to lose the whole world. All the stumbling blocks must be removed. All the stumbling blocks must be removed. Forgive me and apology again and again, brethren, if there's something that you think that I am saying which is not appropriate to your hearing or is not pleasing to your ears. But the feeling of B.T. Halter is the same feeling that I really feel. Brothers and sisters, I would like to read to you the statement of B.T. Halter in Timely Greetings. And here B.T. Halter says in, where is that statement? 1 TG, I think number 52, where B.T. Halter says, page 21 and page 22. Let us read the statement. It says, do you, brother, sister, actually comprehend, actually realize the crisis as outlined here? Do you see the production that the selling message is to be resisted by those who foster the abominations? First, who are they who foster the abominations? Is it the members or is it those who are in the leadership? Who are they? The statement, let me read. I think that is in Timely Greetings, saying, those who foster the abomination, and also in 1SR, according to the Voice of Inspiration, brothers and sisters. And I would like to read 1SR 219. But there's a statement, I think, in 1 TG saying, those who foster the abomination. It says here, in 1SR 219 and 220, to the prophet Isaiah, this great apostasy, fostered by blind spiritual guides, was revealed, which he describes in the following scriptures. And he saw that there was no man, and wondered that there was no intercessor. Therefore his arm brought salvation unto him, and his righteousness it sustained him. Isaiah 59:16. And I looked, and there was none to help, and I wondered that there was none to uphold. Therefore mine own arm brought salvation unto me, and my fury it upheld me. Isaiah 63 verse 5. Micah, looking forward to this wholesale deception, says, trust ye not in a friend, put ye not confidence in a guide. The abominations is fostered by blind spiritual guides. Brothers and sisters, the abomination is rejecting present truth, rejecting present truth. And here the shepherd says in 1 TG 21 page 16, yes, there is to be a clean riddance of every sort of tale, just as anciently there was a clean riddance of all the firstborn in the households that failed to paint the doorposts with the sacrificial blood on the evening of the Passover in the land of Egypt. So shall it be at the commencement of the harvest, in the purification of the church, the angels shall smite everyone who fosters the abominations in the midst thereof. 1 TG 21 page 16. In the midst thereof, meaning within their congregation, not outside. Now, I would like to read 1 TG 52 page 21 and page 22. Do you, brother, sister, actually comprehend, actually realize the crisis as outlined here? Do you see the prediction that the sealing message is to be resisted by those who foster the abominations? Let us distinctly separate the sealing message in the days of Beti Hotep and the sealing message in our days. Because the statement, the sealing message, that is pertaining to the present truth. Because the saints of God in all generations are sealed with present truth. 1 SR page 28. According to these scriptures, which are plainly stated, we must conclude that the saints of God are sealed with present truth in all ages. And whatever that present truth is, that is the seal. And for sure, the present truth in the days of Beti Hotep could no longer be the present truth in our days. And it is the last and the final outpouring of present truth as is stated in answerer number 1, page 90. That must be the present truth under the seventh seal. The present truth in the last generation of men. And it was predicted beforehand that the present truth will be rejected by the leadership. There is no such occurrence in the history in the past that the leadership accepted the message of present truth. Brothers and sisters, there is no such an incident. The same with the statement in tract number 2 on page 31. It says, especially has this been so with the ministry by whom he has been able to lead entire churches astray. And always some of the members who have refused to follow the leadership of men in the place of that of Christ have been cast out. Indeed, whenever God has sent a message to His church, the ministry, instead of standing by the messenger and helping get the message to the people, has fought against it, standing almost as a unit in its way, so that it cannot reach the people. Showing how the ministry tried to put an extinguisher, brothers and sisters. So that is the reality. So the statement, I would like to read again. 1 TG 52, page 21. Do you see the prediction that the selling message is to be resisted by those who foster the abominations? What is the abominations? Brothers and sisters, rejecting present truth. Are you with them? I hope not. Is there then any question that if the brethren are left ignorant of this cleansing work that God is about to do among His people, I say, if they be left ignorant of it, will they not fall in the general destruction of the wicked represented by the work of the 5 men beating with slaughter weapons? Obviously, all the sinners in the church will perish in this slaughter of the wicked, be they men, women, or children. Parents who continue to serve the devil will have their little ones with them in hell. And parents who break away from abominations will have their little ones with them in the kingdom. Where do you stand? Are you with those who have the burden of this work, or are you against them? This, you see, is the decisive hour for you, for me. Brethren, in the days of Beti Hotep, it was especially addressed to the Seventh-day Adventist Church ministry and to all the membership because they were rejecting the present truth that had been sent by God to them through the channel of BT Hotel. But the Bidian today, brothers and sisters, the same situation with the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Whatever negative statement in the writings of Sister White, the Seventh-day Adventist Church will say, no, it is applied to the world and not to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. The same with the Bidian today. Brothers and sisters, they will say, no, that is applied to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and it is not applied to us, the Bidian. Brethren, it is high time now to study closely the Shepherd's Rod publications. There is no dispute to the fact that in the days of B.T. Houghton, it was applied to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. But without any doubts, in reality, the entire Shepherd's Rod publications is directly applied first to us Shepherd's Rod believers. Now, for example, here in 1TG number 22, 1TG 22 page 24, it says, the meek of the earth are those who have brought the Lord's judgments, who have proclaimed the message of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. They are His people, His church. Now, I would like to read again, 1TG 22 page 24. It says, the meek of the earth are those who have brought the Lord's judgments, who have proclaimed the message of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. They are His people, His church. Who are they that proclaim the message of the great and dreadful day of the Lord? Is it the Seventh-day Adventist Church? Does the Seventh-day Adventist Church proclaim the message of the great and dreadful day of the Lord? Now here in the General Conference Special, page 39, it says, the judgment for the dead, furthermore, is not the message of the great and dreadful day. That is very plain. The judgment for the dead, furthermore, is not the message of the great and dreadful day. It does not even touch on the prophecies of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. General Conference Special, page 39. The message that was entrusted by God to the Seventh-day Adventist Church is only the message of the judgment that pertains to the dead. And the Shepherd's Rod says, the message of the judgment that pertains to the dead is not the message of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. As a matter of fact, it does not even touch the message of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Now, tell me, who are they, these people, by which they proclaim the message of the great and dreadful day of the Lord? Are not the Davidian? Of course they are. They are the Davidian. The only people under the sun who proclaim the message of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Because the message of the great and dreadful day of the Lord, I think that is found in Jezreel letter. That is the Shepherd's Rod publications. The entire Shepherd's Rod publications deal the subject, the great and dreadful day of the Lord. I think that is in Jezreel letter, if you could find that statement. That is the message of the Shepherd's Rod publications, brothers and sisters. The only publications that explain the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Now, I would like to read again 1TG 22 page 24. The meek of the earth, hoping that we are among the meek of the earth. Supposed to be, the true Davidian must be among the meek of the earth. Because here in 1TG 41 page 24 and 25, 1TG 41 page 24 and 25, it says, moreover, he was anointed to preach to the meek. 1TG 41 page 24 and 25. Moreover, he was anointed to preach to the meek, to those who are not self-sufficient, not high-minded, but humble and teachable. The other class could not be taught. Now, whether you believe it or not, but I fully believe that that is the reality. That among Shepherd's Rod believers, there are two classes, the meek, humble, and teachable. But the other Davidian cannot be taught. They were so proud. Whether you believe it or not, it is the Word of God who declared it. that the last section of the Laodiceans is in a worse condition. In 2SR page 93 and page 94, it says, since the history of the church is such, you see, the history of the church is such, and the last section, it says, Laodiceans is in a worse condition. If you will pay attention to grammar, the word worse is an adjective in comparative degree, because adjective has 3 degrees of comparisons: positive degree, comparative degree, and superlative degree. The positive degree of the word worse is bad. The comparative degree is worse. W-O-R-S-E. But the superlative degree is W-O-R-S-T. Superlative degree is used to compare at least 3 or more than 3. But the comparative degree is used to compare only 2 objects. Therefore, grammatically, comparing the 2 sections of the Laodiceans, the first section is because the word Laodicean meaning Laodicea, people declaring judgment. Answerer number 1, page 11. That's what it means by the word Laodicea. People declaring judgment. So the first section of the Laodiceans are the people who declare the judgment that pertains to the dead. But the second section, they are the people declaring the judgment that pertains to the living. And they are in a worse condition. The condition of the Seventh-day Adventist Church is bad, but the condition of the Berean is worse, according to the Word of God. And to all the Bereans, this is the admonition. According to 1 TJ 22, page 26, it says, moreover, in these verses, 2 truths stand out clearly. Number 1, that in vain the Jews seek to establish themselves in the promised land. Let us apply this statement in our days. Soon, World War II will be resumed on its final blow. And that is the very statement in 13 Symbolic Code. That when this war starts, I would like to read again, 13 Symbolic Code, 1 and 2, page 19. It says, this verse is not describing the conditions that will prevail as a result of the coming of the brightness of the Lord when He comes in the clouds. This is a slaughter from the great whirlwind of verse 32. It is from war. Why should the Lord first bring this on Judah? Remember, who are they? The Judah mentioned here. The Berean might say, that is the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Then what tribe is the Berean? Because there are 12 tribes. Ponder deeply, brethren. Now, it says, why should the Lord first bring this on Judah and Jerusalem and then to the nations? Because they have the greatest light. Who have the greatest light? Seventh-day Adventist Church or the Berean? The Seventh-day Adventist Church, what they had is only the writings of Sister White. But with the Berean, we have the writings of Sister White. We have the writings of B.T. Hotep. The statement given by B.T. Hotep and the old Symbolic Code, and I fully believe that this statement is absolute reality. It says, the shepherd's rod, 2 Symbolic Code number 2, page 5. 2 Symbolic Code number 2, page 5. The shepherd's rod has led us to a greater knowledge in many Bible themes than any book we have ever had. I would like to read again only that statement. 2 Symbolic Code number 2, page 5. The shepherd's rod has led us to a greater knowledge in many Bible themes than any book we have ever had. I believe that statement. Therefore, the Berean has the greatest light. Now, let us read again the statement in 13 Symbolic Code, 1 and 2, page 19. It says, because they had the greatest light, and therefore, they had the least reason to be wicked. If you are living in the days of Jesus Christ, would you think in your finite observation, you will say that the scribes and Pharisees were wicked? Let us go to the reality. If we are living in the days of Jesus Christ and our judgment will be based on what we observe, on our finite observation, you think you would say that the scribes and Pharisees are wicked? The shepherd's rod declared clearly in 2 TG 41, page 8, it says, "The world has never seen a more religious group, nor a more praying and pious people than were the priests, scribes, and Pharisees in Christ's day. Yet, they were the very ones who protested against Christ's teachings, who spread prejudices and confusion among the people, and who keep them in darkness. Yes, they deceive a whole nation." 2TG 41, page 8. Majority of the people in the first advent of Jesus Christ, they regarded the scribes, the Pharisees, the Sadducees as the righteous people. And that is the reason that they crucified Jesus Christ. And I remember the statement in 2TG 24 on page, let me read to you. 2TG 24, page 21. Laodiceanism today, I would like to apply the word today in our days, year 2020. Laodiceanism today, you know, is in a worse situation than any people at any other time. For by protesting that there is no need of prophets, no need of more truth, they have already rejected them, yes, actually killed them. If they expect no more truth, and if Jesus Christ himself should come with more truth, would they not crucify him also? I know that I am not making a rash statement, not exaggerating either. And I also know that the Bible will sustain me in what I am saying, else I would not say it. 2TG 24, page 21. Now I would like to read 1TG 22:26. It says, "Moreover, in these verses, two truths stand out clearly. Number one, that in vain the Jews seek to establish themselves in the promised land." Let us apply that occurrence in our days. Number two, that we who are bearing the message of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Who are they bearing the message of the great and dreadful day of the Lord? Seventh-day Adventist Church. Brethren, be honest, be sincere. Who are they bearing the message of the great and dreadful day of the Lord? You cannot read a single citation in the Shepherd's Rod that the Seventh-day Adventist Church, they were bearing the message of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. The only message that was entrusted by God to the Seventh-day Adventist Church is the judgment that pertains to the dead. And the Shepherd's Rod says, it does not even touch the message of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. The General Conference Special, page 39. Now, let us read again the statement here in 1TG 22, page 26. It says, that we, I would like to say, brothers and sisters, that we, the obedient, who are bearing the message of the great and dreadful day of the Lord, are counseled to seek meekness and righteousness. What does it mean by meekness? Humble and teachable. Why is it that the obedient are quarreling and bickering against each other? That situation, brethren, will never be happen if all the obedients are humble. Because the only things that we need to do is to sit down and study closely, sincerely and honestly, what the Shepherd's Rod teaches. If all of us have only one aim and one desire to be in God's kingdom someday, let us help each other rather than fighting against each other. You believe the Shepherd's Rod? I believe the Shepherd's Rod. Then for what reason that we will fight against each other? Let us study. If all of us are honest, sincere, faithful, all of us can be led by the Spirit, brothers and sisters. Because that is the prayer of Jesus, that all of us will be united into one truth. I remember the statement in the Great Controversy, 379. It says, if God professed people would receive the light as it shines upon them from His Word, they would reach the unity for which Christ prayed. That which the apostle describes, the unity of the Spirit in the band of peace. There is, he says, one body and one spirit, even as ye are called in one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one baptism. Ephesians 4 verse 3 to 5. But the statement in Selected Messages on page 37, it says here, page 37, book 1, we have many lessons to learn and many to unlearn. God and heaven alone are infallible. Those who think that they will never have to give up a cherished view, never have occasion to change an opinion, will be disappointed. As long as we hold to our own ideas and opinions with determined persistency, we cannot have the unity for which Christ prayed. 1 SM page 37. Now let's go back again to the reading in 1 TG 22 page 26. It says here, 1 TG number 22 page 26. It says that we who are bearing the message of the great and dreadful day of the Lord are counseled to seek meekness and righteousness, for thus only shall we be hid in the day of the Lord's anger. That is, merely bare knowledge of the message will not save us. There should be corresponding deeds with it. And what is the corresponding deeds? To be humble, to be teachable. Brethren, whether you believe it or not, the worldly churches, I do fully believe, first referred to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. They are worldly. And I do fully believe that the title Judah, which is God's church at this present time, we, the Davidian, the most enlightened people, brothers and sisters, we are the most enlightened people. And the Voice of Inspiration says that when this war starts, I would like to read 13 Symbolic Code 1 and 2, page 19. Then when this war starts, in the time of the deliverance of God's people, the most enlightened people will suffer first. I do fully believe that the Davidian is the most enlightened people rather than the Seventh-day Adventist Church. If all the Davidian are righteous, then nothing to fear. Because God will spare the righteous. God will not destroy the righteous, according to tract number 4, page 40. But, brothers and sisters, if we pretentiously believe that we are, while in the sight of God, we are not, we are only deceiving our own selves, brothers and sisters. Now, let us focus our attention to 1 TG 24. 1 TG 24, page 12. 1 TG 24, page 12. This message is addressed, I would like to say, this message is addressed to all the meek. And if you are among the meek of the earth, who are they, the meek? Those who proclaim the message of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Humble and teachable. And this message is addressed to them, not to the proud and boastful. God does not need of them. Now hear the statement given in 1 TG 24, page 12. The Lord counsels them to be honest with Him, honest in their profession of faith. Since we profess to be the Davidian must be the most humble, the most teachable people throughout the whole world. The same statement in Ministry of Healing, 147, that the reformers must be the most, I forgot the exact words. Ministry of Healing, page 147. Now, let's read again the statement here. So, of all the people in the world, reformers should be the most unselfish, the most kind, and the most courteous. The most kind. And thank God that in my own life, God had given me the chance to change my life. Because without the message of the present truth, it might be that I am the most selfish, the most unkind, and the most uncourteous. And I really regret those days in my past experiences, brothers and sisters, when I see myself, the same with other people today, speaking negative things, evil things to other organizations, which is not the Spirit of Christ. The only things that I could say from this day onwards is to proclaim the message of present truth. with one aim and desire that through this message, the message of present truth, we, all the obedience, can prepare our lives with the impending judgment, impending doom. And I stand with that statement given by B.T. Hotep in 1TG 420, 1TG number 4, page 20. So looking at it from this angle, we were not much better than the best of the Laodiceans. What makes the difference between us and them is that the light has illuminated our path, but it has not as yet reached them. The credit then for what advancement we may have made in this revival and reformation effort is not ours, but God's. To God be the glory. So here, brothers and sisters, in 1TJ 24, page 12, it says, the Lord counsels them to be honest with Him, honest in their profession of faith. Who? Those people called by God in the title Judah. And who are they that Judah mentioned here? They are the people who proclaim the message of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And God counsels us to be honest with God, honest in our profession of faith. They are, moreover, assured that at the fulfillment of this prophecy, what prophecy, brothers and sisters? The prophecy of Nahum, chapter 1, verse 12, 13, and 15. But the book of Nahum is predicting World War II. They are moreover assured that at the fulfillment of this prophecy, what prophecy? World War II. We already read in 13 Symbolic Code 1 and 2, page 19. When this war starts, the most enlightened people will suffer first. What is the admonition given by God? To behold God's messenger. What does it mean by the word behold? Now, I would like to read first in 1TG 24, page 17. God's people, Judah, are asked to behold the messenger of God, who at the fulfillment of this prophecy and at the time broiling with war brings them good tidings of the kingdom of peace. And B.T. Hotep declared clearly in 1TG 47:18, the word behold, 1TG 47:18, the word behold calls attention to something that can be seen. The word behold indicates something that can be seen. That is the statement, 1TG 47, page 18. But it did not say, behold the face of the messenger, but behold the feet of him. That is signifying the message. Behold the message proclaimed by the messenger. In tract 14, on page 21, it says, and beholding him, tract 14, page 21, and beholding him, they shall accept his message and know the truth, and the truth shall make them free and shall save them from being spewed out of his mouth. Revelation 3, verse 16. So let us go back again to the reading in 1TG 24, page 12. They are, moreover, assured that at the time of the fulfillment of this prophecy, the destroying angels are to remove the wicked from the midst of the righteous. Thus will the wicked be raptured away and be no more. Brethren, I would like to read that statement in tract number 3, page 65, saying, Christ's illustrations are perfect. When Jesus Christ illustrates something, that illustration must be perfect. It says here in tract number 3, page 65, so it must be with the spiritual harvest, which otherwise could not be illustrated by the literal. Do not regard lightly the wisdom of God. His illustrations are perfect. Tract number 3, page 65. God's illustrations are perfect. Now, I would like to read this reading in 2TG number 16, page 21. It says, the dragon, though, is again to miss the mark, for the earth is to open her mouth and swallow up the flood. That is, inspiration definitely forecast that those who join the church for some purpose other than to follow and practice the truth shall be disposed of by a miracle, be swallowed by the earth as it were. 2TG number 16, page 21. Now, since Christ's illustrations are perfect, the example given by the shepherd's rod is in the days of Moses, in 2TG 24. on pages 24 and page 25. So let us study closely the illustration given, because Christ's illustrations are perfect according to the voice of inspiration. So let us read, brothers and sisters. It says, this flood against which the ever-living church is struggling to make headway is, we are told, to be swallowed by the earth. It is to be done away with as well. The self-appointed prophets in Moses' day, namely Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, princes of the assembly, famous in the congregation, men of renown. Number 16, verse 2. This and all their followers and sympathizers perished. The earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their houses, and all the men that appertain unto Korah, and all their goods. Number 16:32. Now let us view first the occurrence in the past. Let us read the Bible, such occurrences. Numbers 16. So this is Numbers 16, verse 21. Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. So let us read closely. It says, separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. Verse 26. Number 16, verse 21, and then verse 26. And he spake unto the congregation, saying, depart, I pray you, from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing of theirs, lest ye be consumed in all their sins. Then verse 31, and it came to pass, as he had made an end of speaking all these words, that the ground clave asunder that was under them, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their houses, and all the men that appertained unto Korah, and all their goods. So the occurrences is that before that event been occurred, that the earth opened her mouth, there is a message first. Separate yourselves from among this congregation. Depart from this congregation. Now, who are they that perish? According to 2 TG 24, and 25. This and all their followers and sympathizers perish. So there are three things mentioned. The pronoun this is pointing to Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And then second, to all their followers. And third, to all their sympathizers perish with them. Now the shepherd's rod made it so plain that those who joined the movement, it is not so because he honestly believed that the present truth is there, but rather for some other purpose, brothers and sisters. And the only verse that explained that situation is found in 1 TG number 5, page 17. 1 TG number 5, page 17. To say, come and rule over us because you have clothing. 1 TG 5:17. To say, come and rule over us because you have clothing is perhaps equivalent to saying, if you rule over us, you can at least give us something to wear, and this ruin shall be under your control. You can remedy the situation. The people's way of thinking and acting in this soon coming time of trouble, ruin, and adversity of all kinds clearly reveals that they are not taking God into consideration. No, not at all. They are trusting in men and goods. The goods mentioned here must be wealth, money, brothers and sisters. They hope that someone can yet remedy the situation, can save them from ruin. Thus, by their calling on men to help instead of calling on God, they are acting as if God has forsaken the earth. Now, let us go back again to the statement in 1 TG 24, page 12. Thus will the wicked be raptured away and be no more. Who are they, the wicked, to be raptured away and be no more? The illustration is given in the occurrence in the days of Moses. The earth opened her mouth, and they were buried alive at the bottom or under the ground. And they had been raptured, and their existence disappeared. You cannot see their dead bodies. It is quite different with the fulfillment of Ezekiel chapter 9, saying, defile the house. Ezekiel chapter 9. Let us read. It says here, verse 6 and 7, slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children, and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. And he said unto them, defile the house and fill the courts with the slain. Go ye forth. And they went forth and slew in the city. It says, defile the house and fill the courts with slain, dead bodies. But the wicked mentioned here, they had been raptured away, and be no more. Now here's our statement in 2TG number 16, page 20, 2TG 41, page 21. 2TG 41, page 21. It says, Isaiah 8, verse 15, and many among them shall stumble and fall and be broken and be snared and be taken. And this is the commentary given by the Shah version, 2TJ 41:21. According to this scripture, many of them will find the rapture not to their liking and not according to their teaching of it. Now, I would like to read 11 symbolic code number 12, pages 17 and page 18. It says, you cannot say that the judgment we are reading about in Matthew 25 is the judgment which is to take place during the millennium, because his people are not then among the nations. There is positively no escaping the conclusion that it takes place in the time of the judgment for the living. Now let us focus our attention to this statement. 11 symbolic code number 12, pages 17 and page 18. Let us read again the statement. You cannot say that the judgment we are reading about in Matthew 25 is the judgment which is to take place during the millennium, because his people are not then among the nations. There is positively no escaping the conclusion that it takes place in the time of the judgment for the living. Remember the statement. In the time of the judgment for the living, when both the righteous and wicked are commingled on the earth. So during the judgment for the living, the righteous and the wicked are still commingled on the earth. Of course, that is in the church. And here's another proof that is an erroneous doctrine, that the judgment for the living in the church will begin after the slaughtering. Are we saying that there are still wicked after the slaughtering? So the angels failed to perform the task given by God unto them, to slay all the wicked. To repeat again, let us distinctly separate the commencement of the judgment for the living in the world, the second fruits, and the judgment for the living in the church, the first harvest, the first section of the harvest. So the judgment for the living takes place when both the righteous and the wicked are commingled on the earth, since moreover, this work of separation goes on among the people themselves. It is clear that it is not a work to be done in heaven, but it is a work to be done on the earth. Then it says, then shall two be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken and the other left. Matthew 24 verse 40 and 41. Some call that the rapture, but it is quite different than what they think it is. So, hear the voice of inspiration. Connect the subject in Matthew 24 verse 40 and verse 41. The statement in 1TG 24:12 to TG 41:21, which is called the rapture, by which the clear words of Jesus Christ is very plain. In Luke 17, on verse 34, I'll tell you in that night, remember, in that night, pointing to one specific night. I tell you in that night, there shall be two men in one bed. The one shall be taken and the other shall be left. Two women shall be grinding together. The one shall be taken and the other left. Two men shall be in the field. The one shall be taken and the other left. And they answered and said unto him, Where, Lord? And he said unto them, Wheresoever the body is, thither will the eagles be gathered together. So this is the fulfillment of the statement that the wicked will be raptured and be no more, which is directly applied to the parable of Jesus Christ, saying, Gather ye together first the tares. Matthew 13 verse 30. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. So this parable is plainly telling that there must be an specific place by which the wicked are raptured and brought into that place, but not to their own liking of what they teach. Apology. That statement is applied to the Davidian. It can't be applied to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, because the Seventh-day Adventist Church never teach that they will be raptured and be brought into Mount Zion. Only Davidian teaches. But yes, they will be raptured. Many Davidians will be raptured, but not to their own liking. They will be brought into that place. Nobody knows where is that place. But Jesus Christ is very clear. The eagles mentioned there, they are the vultures eating their dead carcasses. So the similarity in the illustration in the past, in the days of Moses, their dead bodies disappeared, buried in the deep of the bottom of the soil, in the ground. All of them disappeared. Unlike with the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9 verse 5 and 6 or 6 and 7, that all their dead bodies found in the church, in the temple. So the very first slaughtering that will occur prior to the close of provision, prior to the commencement of the loud cry, is that slaughtering mentioned, illustrated when the earth will open her mouth, illustrated in the parable of Jesus Christ, that they will be raptured and be no more, and they will be brought into the place where the vultures are gathered together, eating their dead bodies, brothers and sisters. And that is the time that the sleeping multitudes will be awakened to their spiritual insensibility. I would like to read to you this reading. It says here, in 1 Symbolic Code number 14, page 6, as Amos says, the habitations of the shepherd shall mourn. It is obvious that Amos' prophecy is yet future. For the word habitations, places, is in plural form, which cannot be applied to one shepherd's habitation, denomination, but to all that be in existence at that time. All. The term shepherds means, as understood, the same as the ancient men, which were before the house, the ministers. Testimonies for the Church, volume 5, page 211. Note that the shepherds are not themselves to mourn, but their habitations, their houses. That is, the membership of their churches, which fact reveals that it will be thus at the time when the sleeping multitudes in the churches awake from their spiritual insensibility and find that the shepherds whom they have implicitly trusted for their salvation had deceived all those who followed them. This is not the situation in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Because the situation in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, it is the gates that will lament and mourn. But the situation in this prophecy is opposite. No, it is not the ministers who will lament and mourn, but it is the membership. I do fully believe that this statement is applied to all the Davidians. Let me read to you in Symbolic Code, by which it says, the gates shall lament and mourn. Can you project that statement? Is it 11 Symbolic Code? Let us read the statement. That it is the gates that shall lament and mourn. 12 Symbolic Code, number 7, page 13. 12 Symbolic Code, number 6 and 7, page 13. The quotation is found in Isaiah 3, verse 25 and 26. Thy men shall fall by the sword, and thy mighty in the war. This verse places the time when the men of Zion shall fall by the sword, and the mighty in the war. Through Nahum, we learn that it is the Assyrian war that is being fought in the day these things take place. And we will also deal on finality as a summarization of the subject, World War II. The preceding verses in this chapter show that Zion is to lose her men and her mighty because her people are following after vanity. Verse 26, and her gates shall lament and mourn, and she being desolate shall sit upon the ground. Since gates are not able to lament and mourn, They must represent people, those who let others come in and go out. Therefore, they must represent watchmen, ministers. This verse says that they shall lament and mourn. So it is the ministers who will lament and mourn. And it is applied to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. But it is opposite to that prophecy in Amos chapter 1, verse 1 and 2, as stated by the shepherd's rod. No, it is not the ministers that shall lament and mourn. How could the ministers lament and mourn when all of them disappeared? Brought into one place, the place by which, brothers and sisters, it is called the Valley of Achor. And in that place, eagles shall gather together, eating their dead bodies, their dead carcasses. And at that time, all the membership of their churches shall lament and mourn. But it is too late, brethren. We will continue this subject and we will show to you how God graciously revealed unto us, graciously placed in our hands, all this information, not to us alone, but to all the meek of the earth, to all the humble and teachable, to all the 144,000 living saints scattered abroad. This message is especially directed to all of you. May the good Lord bless you and have a beautiful, wonderful evening.